Hey everyone, this is a quick video to explain the process of composing with relative modes. The first couple of minutes of the video are a re-explanation of what relative modes are, and then after that I start talking specifically about the assignment. So if you feel like you understand what relative modes are, you can skip. First, let's clarify our modal definition. A mode is simply a transposition of a scale. If I take C major, and I simply started on D, I have created a mode. And anytime I start on another pitch, I create a new mode. The modes are Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. We primarily use only the first 6 modes for composition. The 7th mode, Locrian, is a very unstable sound because it doesn't have a perfect fifth. Sounds like that. That's what the 1 chord sounds like. So we're not going to be dealing with that one in a compositional way in this video. Source of the word mode is the same source as the word mood. So when we change the starting note of a scale like this, we change all the intervals upward from the root. The most obvious thing is that from in C major, the third is a major third, but when I start on D, creating D Dorian, I create a minor, there's a minor third. So again, mode and mood kind of mean the same thing. We're creating a different mood. So here's a famous little tune. And that has a major sound. Now if I take the same relationships, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, etc., and move them up one step, my tonal center is now D, I get this sound. And which is a minor sound, a different mood altogether. Because the notes are shared between relative scales, relative modes, the chords are also shared. So if we have a chord sequence, for example, 1 to 2 in a major key, that's a C Ionian progression or a C major progression. But if we do the same thing starting on D, D Dorian, it will sound like this. Chords are shared and notes are shared between relative scales. So let's move over to some notation now and talk about the assignment. Here are the chords of C major. They're Roman numerals. Now, since we're talking about a finale assignment, I want to say a few words about finale. Now, when I prepare these templates, I prepare them with the Garriton sounds. These are the sounds that are sampled sounds that sound better than the MIDI sounds. That's why this is checked right here. You play these through what's called audio units, not through MIDI. Okay, if you're having sound problems and you're getting some notice that something about the sound engine not working or whatever, that means that you probably don't have the Garriton sounds installed, and you should go to the Computer Support Center and get them installed, get a reinstall of Finale, because it's really worth it because they sound a lot better. It's more inspiring to work with. However, in the meantime, if you just need to get something happening, just go down here and click Play Finale through MIDI, and then it will almost certainly work. But do get your Finale reinstalled so that you get the better sounds. This is what you want to work. If it's not working, you can do this for the time being. Okay, back to the assignment. Here's the chords in C major. And we're very familiar with those sounds. 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, etc. So when we are dealing with, again, relative modes, that just means the same notes, same chords, but with a different tonic. So we simply pick up these chords and move them to here, starting with D. D now becomes the 1 chord, and E becomes the 2 chord, and F, and so on. And C goes all the way to the end, it becomes the last chord of the mode. And the Roman numeral naming changes too because we're doing intervals from the root. So whole numbers indicate major or perfect intervals. So this is a whole step above 1, so that's why it's 2 minor 7. It's not flat 2 minor 7, it's not sharp 2 minor 7, it's 2 minor 7. That means it's a major second above the root of the key. This is 3 minor 7 because it's a major third away from the root of the key. It's a minor chord, but the interval of the root of the key to the root of this chord is a major third. Well, in Dorian, the name would be 1 minor 7, then 2 minor 7, because that's a whole step away. But this is flat 3 major 7. It's called flat 3 major 7 because the flat 3 indicates that the root is a flat third, a minor third away from the root of the scale. And then we go on and we get 4, 7, 5 minor 7, 6 minor 7 flat 5, and flat 7 major 7. Again, all the same chords, same notes, but different tonic. That's what relative means. So the first part of the assignment is to copy these chords over, starting on the new chord of the mode. So for Phrygian, you would copy these chords and move them to there, and then you'd fill in the missing ones here, and so on. But in order to do that in Finale, you have to understand how copying works. So the way copying works is you go to Edit, and you go to this thing called the Filter. You go to Edit Filter, and you can start by, I've usually probably pre-set this up to work already, but if you need to check it, you go here. And what you really want to be able to copy are the notes and any chord symbols. That's really what you're copying here. We're working on Lydian here. So we started with these chords, copied them, the start of Lydian, pasted them there, and then the remaining chords that were not included in the beginning are now at the end, right? Everything is displaced, right? So what was the 4 chord is now the 1 chord, what was the 5 chord is now the 2 chord, and so on. And finally, Aeolian, I would start on A minor, do those first 3 chords there, bring them down, Command C for copy, Command V for paste. Okay. This one I'm going to change. That's actually a mistake. This was meant to say Locrian, but we're not using Locrian as a mode, so I'm just going to erase that one. We're not using it as a compositional mode. Okay, now, if you don't know how to do analysis in Finale, don't worry about it. You could print this out and write in the Roman numerals, okay? But just for those of you that want to do it, you click on the expression tool, which is this, double click on the chord, and then search amongst here for what you need. In this case, we need a 1 minor 7. There it is. I click on that, I say assign, and now 1 minor 7 has been assigned to that. Okay, then now let's talk about the project itself. Well, in modal harmony, we don't use 5-to-1. We don't use dominant chords going down a fifth. Instead, we use cadence chords, which are chords which contain the character note as a chord tone. Character note of Dorian, you'll know from our discussions in class and your reading, is scale degree 6, which is the note B. And so these chords have B as a chord tone, so they are cadence chords. That means they're particularly powerful chords for creating cadences that substitute for dominant cadences, because we can't use dominant cadence because that will make us sound like we're back in C major instead of D Dorian. So these are chords to use for our cadence points. The reason that there's an X here is because we never use diminished chords, so we've crossed them out. They're not in the running in modal music because they cause problems with making it sound too much like a dominant chord. All right, so we avoid what was 5-to-1 in the parent key, and we avoid using diminished chords. It's also a good idea to avoid what was 4-to-1 in the previous key. All right, now we've prepared ourselves to compose. So we know a lot of modal music is composed with vamps, and the typical most effective vamp is to have the 1 chord alternating with a cadence chord. So what I'm asking you to do over here is to compose a simple ostinato bass line, which emphasizes the tonic of the mode, and then alternate that with a cadence chord. So you have to figure out what are the cadence chords, and look at your reading, look at your studies so far so that you understand the character note of each mode and the cadence chord for each mode, chords for each mode, and then come over here and create your modal vamp. So here's a Ionian vamp where we know that the character note is scale degree 4. I've chosen the 4 chord, and here's the sound of that. Okay, in this case, I kept the tonic on the same note even when I changed chord. That's one option. Here's another one where I actually changed the root note of the bass to go with the root of the chord, but it still sounds like D Dorian because I have the 1 chord here and I have my cadence chord, the chord that contains the character note as a chord tone, in my second measure. That's a very Dorian sound. We've successfully done Dorian. Come down here and do Phrygian. You would have figured out that the character note of Phrygian is flat 2. Flat 2 is F, so any of the chords with F in them are fair game for being cadence chords, but we can't use that chord. So the most obvious one to choose would be that one, but we could also use this one. Just got to be careful how we use it. We could also use this one. This also has F as a chord tone. Let's go ahead and use these two. So I've got 1 minor 7. I place it right here. And I've got flat 2, major 7 to use as my cadence chord. And now I can come up with a ostinato bass line for that. Now one way to come up with an ostinato bass is to simply sing what you think is a cool sounding rhythm. It's also good to start with a drum groove because the drum groove will suggest a rhythm to you. So I'm going to use this just to save time. I'm going to reuse the same one. And as I listen to this, I'm going to think of a rhythm. So maybe my rhythm will be da 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 da. Da, 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 da. And so I'm going to now notate that. And I've notated that rhythm. And now I can just take that. This is a one-note ostinato. I'm not changing pitches yet. I can put that right on here and then move it to an F. Now a quick shortcut to move pitches when you're in this tool, this selection tool here, is to simply use 6 to go down and 7 to go up. I think I'm going to go down to the low F, and I'm actually going to take these pitches and go down an octave. You go down an octave by hitting the number 8. So now I have my basic ostinato. And now I have a Phrygian vamp. You could change some of these pitches if you like, but even single pitches are good enough for what we're doing here. If I was going to change some of them, I would probably use I would definitely make sure I use notes that are either transparent or descriptive of the mode. If I go, fifths are always no problem. You're never going to have any problems if you use a fifth. So I'm going up to an octave there. Okay, so that's one way to get a little more movement. Use some fifths, some octaves, and just a simple idea, but with the idea of this modal vamp expressed correctly. What you will not do, there will never be a case where you have G7 going down to C, because we're not doing, that's tonal. We're avoiding that. Okay, that's it. And once you've completed this, whether you're doing it in Finale or in another way, you need to produce audio of it so that you are hearing what everything sounds like.